Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
This is Season 3, Episode 9 of The Horse Show on Wisp Sports Radio, brought to you by Highlands Earache Drops.
Earaches are one of the primary causes for doctor visits, with over 30 million visits per year. After you've been diagnosed with an earache by a physician, try Highlands Homeopathic Earache Drops and Tablets. Highlands Homeopathic Ear Drops and Tablets provide natural relief to help you get back to doing what you love. Visit highlands.com/ear-pain to find a retailer near you. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence, not FDA evaluated. Read and follow label directions.
I'm Chris Stafford, and at Wisp Sports, we believe that women in sport deserve equal coverage. The Horse Show brings you exclusive interviews with riders and coaches from around the world, and this week's episode is part of our countdown to the 2018 World Equestrian Games. This takes place, of course, in Tryon, North Carolina from September the 11th through the 23rd, and we'll be there to bring you daily coverage of the 7 disciplines that are part of the World Equestrian Games. And this week, my guest is American eventer Lynn Symansky, who's been shortlisted for the Games with her longtime partner, the 15-year-old Thoroughbred Donner, owned by the Donner Syndicate. Lynn's no stranger to the team, having been a member of the gold medal winning squad at the 2011 Pan American Games and the 2015 Aachen Nations Cup team. She was the travelling reserve for the 2016 Rio Olympic Games, and this World Championships will be her second. So she tells me she's determined to improve on that performance, where they finished down the order after a couple of blips on the cross-country course. In addition to her team performances, Lynn has competed at the Kentucky CCI4 Star, where they finished 6th this spring, as well as Badminton, Burghley and Pau. With Donner the Deer, as he is often referred to, Lynn has an experienced partnership, and she knows how to get the best of him on any given day. But it's not always been easy, and it takes careful nurturing to fine-tune the deer. Well, Lynn joins me now at home, I think battling with a little bit this crazy weather we're having, Lynn.
Yeah, it has been pretty incredible. I never thought I'd be complaining about too much rain in August in Virginia, that's for sure.
So you have a nice variation of water jumps at home now, do you?
Yes, we do. You go down through any path into the paddocks, and you can school some water jumps. The geese have been a big fan of my arena, which seems to be underwater right now. They like to come in the afternoon after we've had these huge storms and hang out. They've had more use from the outdoor recently than I have. So looking forward to hopefully this bit of storms passes us, and then we can use this good ground to our advantage leading up into the WEG.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that preparation then. But first of all, I wanted to ask you how it's affecting your daily training, though, with all this rain. How has it actually impacted you and your fast work?
Yeah, it definitely does. You have to base your gallops around the weather, which is not ideal when you are leading up into the final outing and trying to do your fitness work. I'm fortunate that Donner is a thoroughbred and has a very good base on him. So I'm not as panicked as I would be on a younger horse that I didn't know as well. It wasn't a thoroughbred, so it is affecting it. And a lot of days, I've had to do some jumping indoors. But I was fortunate yesterday. I just had a jump with Richard Pickin on Donner and a few other horses and under suspension, who is listed as a reserve horse for me. So there have been breaks. You find yourself not able to set the horse's schedule for the week around what you would normally do. It has to be based a little bit around all these crazy storms we've had coming in.
And your partnership with Donner, of course, goes way back. He's a seasoned teenager, shall we say. So your campaign with him has been very selective, obviously, given, his legs are a little bit older now. But tell us what your strategy was then coming into this year, knowing that WEG was the big goal. And Lynn, what was the big plan for him?
Yeah, well, I did my spring season how I have the last few years, whether it is prepping him for Kentucky or for badminton. So I kind of knew what to do for the spring, and I knew that, I knew he had a strong shot going into it, but nothing's a given, and I still have to prove that he's at the top of his game and competitive. So my plan was to have the lead up into Kentucky, having him peak at Kentucky and be competitive there. Gave him a bit of a letdown after that. He never goes on full holiday. And then came back, just got into the ring at Great Meadow to get him in the dressage ring, get a little atmosphere. Did not make. I have run him there in the past. This is actually the first year I have not run him at the competition, because the first time I think was when we were preparing for the WEG back in Normandy. It was kind of a pretend competition, but that was our final outing. So this is the first time I've waited a little bit longer to save him going into the fall season. So I did not use the full competition at Great Meadow. I instead chose to have a nice canter around at the Maryland Horse Trials, which was a few weeks ago. There were quite a few other of his WEG teammates out there. And then I've been spending some time at home, working on the show jumping, going to a dressage show this weekend, doing a jumper show next week, and then we go into Bromont, which is in mid-August. That is our final mandatory outing, and we have a few training session days before the competition starts. Then we have time back at home to do our final prep, whatever our horses need, and then we go to Will Fodry's farm in North Carolina for our final team training camp before we go to the WEG.
Well, having travelled so much internationally and competed with him, obviously at the highest level now for a number of years, you've watched him emerge as an athlete, then Lynn, and I'm curious as to how he has changed, how he has matured, and how you've adjusted your training with him to suit him. Because he's one special guy, as you say, he's thoroughbred, so he has a way of talk a little bit about that and. Over the years. When did you actually first get on his back? When did the relationship begin?
It's going on 10 years now. It's been a decade because I got him as a 5-year-old, and he's in a 15-year-old year this year. And how he's matured. I don't have to be on his back for as long anymore, which has made my time at the competitions a lot more enjoyable. When he was younger, the way I got through to him and got to the other side was honestly just wearing him out a bit. And it's hard because with a thoroughbred, he's a workhorse, and so for me to be able to get his brain, and he's a bit of a tricky horse, he's a quirky horse, he's spooky, he's nervous, he's an internalizer, and his answer is to just get tense and tight and simultaneously behind your leg and also bolt at the same time. So I had to ride. I did a lot of rides at the competitions. He would be a horse that I'd get on 3 times a day at the competition. As he's gotten older and more mature and more trained, I've been able to back off of that and save his back and save his body. And now he's at a point where he knows the job, and you're still working with the same horse, but they're a bit wiser, and he is not as silly as he was back in the day. So I can make smaller sessions that I keep his body happy and still keep his brain with me. And it's just that fine line of knowing how much to press them. At this point in their career, you are training, you're doing daily training, but you're not teaching them new tricks at this point. They know how to jump, they know the job, but it's just knowing for your individual horse and knowing for him what I have to do at home and in my homework to get him ready for the competition. So for me, I ride him on the flat, but I don't drill him. I don't test ride. I don't drill him every day. I'm actually test riding and practicing on some of my other horses. So I don't wear him out. And then for the cross country, everyone says he's a cross country machine, and he is. He loves the job, but he also is, he's I would say, kind of a spooky horse, not in terms of not being bold to the fences. He is a brave horse, but you kind of got to convince him that he's brave and make him feel settled on the job so he's confident. So I do a lot of cross-country schooling, just very quiet cross-country schooling. He doesn't have anything in particular that he's weak at, but it's more just getting him to listen to me and pay attention, because he would rather just run blindly rather than stay focused. That's always been my struggle when he was coming up through the ranks, is getting his focus on me and not everything, outside of the ropes and all the people and decorations on corners. It's silly stuff. Everyone would laugh at me back in the day. We'd walk, of course, and whoever I was walking with, they'd be looking at the line, and I'm always looking at what decoration is in the center of the corner or where the roping is that's the kind of stuff that this horse notices. So it's always just keeping the communication line very clear between us on the cross country. And then in the show jumping, not jumping him at height all the time, working a lot of rideability exercises with him over smaller stuff, because you don't need to jump his legs off anymore. He's done a lot in his career, and knock on wood, he's held up and been a very sound horse, but that comes from not overworking them. And it's, he's had to do a lot in his career, because at many points he was kind of my only upper level horse. So now I'm fortunate that sitting on a few other horses, so I get that practice and take some of that burden off of him.
What are the kind of finer points that you have to polish then going into a big championship like this with him, Lynn? Well, you have to cater to his quirks with everything, before you get on him. But what do those look like? What does it look like to nurture him right to perform at his very best in that moment?
Yeah, I got to think of each phase a bit separately for him, and make sure that I'm focusing on all three together. If I focus too much on the flat work, he'll get really tight in his body. So then if he's starting to feel that way, to me, I actually have to go and do some canters and, let him kind of stretch out and, feel a bit softer in his body. And then if you do too much of that, he is a thoroughbred, so he can get a little bit quick and flat in the show jumping. He's a very good jumper, but, if he has a fault, it would be that he gets just a bit flat and upside down in his shape. So, if you do too much of cantering and too much of the cross country, then you lose the shape and the show jumping. So it's just making sure each week that I step it up a little bit in terms of working on his carefulness, working on his fitness, working on his rideability and brain and the flat. It's a little bit like you're standing on a teeter-totter, and you push a little much one way, then you got to go back and work on the other side and even yourself out. So I guess it's just slowly climbing those stairs and making sure that each phase feels like we've checked all the boxes leading up into the championship. He's a horse, a lot of people like to get their horse in a lot of atmosphere. Some of our team riders went to Kentucky to jump at the horse park last week and get the horses in the ring over and over. He's one that doesn't actually thrive off of that. You'll have him peak too soon, and it just kind of fries him in his brain. He can only handle so much showing and pressure at one time. So I'm pretty careful to set up like coursework and set up those scenarios. I always have a dressage ring, so I'm always riding through the movements with him. So I'm putting all these pieces together, but not all at one time. So he peaks at the right time going into WEG, because if I start out too much and drill too much, I've kind of lost his body and lost his brain.
And now what about in the barn? How do you cope with that? How do you cater to his whims and his sensibilities in the barn then, and traveling?
Yeah. So when I had him and he was younger, and I didn't, I knew he was a special horse, but I didn't know quite what he'd turn out to be. So when they're younger, they get turned out, and you kind of sort their personality. Do they need to be with someone else? They need to be alone. So he was turned out when I had him as a younger horse. And I remember coming to the barn one morning right before a competition. I would say he was probably like 6 at this point. And he was he had jumped out of the field. So like we say he's a deer, but he really is, because he's flighty, and he'll get running like deer blindly do, and then they run straight in front of a car and get hit. So it's a little bit Donner. He gets running in a field. He's very noise sensitive, super noise sensitive. So he gets going, and anytime he's had a little minor injury, it's been from his turnout, because he gets running and he does these sliding stops to the edge of the field, and if he can't stop in time, then he has to jump the fence. So I found him jumped out of his field, not because he chose to get to the other side. It's because he went galloping so quickly, he then couldn't stop and had no choice but to jump over the fence. So I've tried over the years, I kept trying to keep him in quiet turnout, put him in a round pen. He cannot handle a big field. The horse just loses his mind in a big open space. And I hope one day in retirement, then he'll finally sort it out. You pull his shoes and let him finally be a horse. But I just can't risk that injury to him. So we made a pen attached to his stall. And it's not a very big area, but it's enough for him to be outside and feel like he's part of the outdoors and civilization. So his mind gets to be outside, but he can't get running. Because of that, I have to, he then gets hand grazed, and make sure that he still is like a normal horse because he's not on grass. So Kendall goes out and hand grazes him, and has some quiet time out with his human there. So he does get turned out every day, but it's in a tiny little pen. So then that means he's not moving as much as a normal horse would. But I found that really it works great for him. And then what is interesting is when I do go to the competition, it's not that much of a change for him that he's in a stall all the time, because he's used to being with Kendall and going hand grazing. And he's not a horse that hacks on the buckle very easily. When he hacks, I have to hack around the farm. When he gets out in big open spaces, he just feels a little bit lost and gets panicked, and the legs go in 20 different directions. So you just got to figure out a way to channel that in the right way. I mean, that's why he's an amazing cross-country horse. It's all of that desire and energy. He doesn't know how to handle it himself when you're on a hack or he's out in a big field. So you got to put it in the right direction, which is forward between the flags. He's a really sweet horse in the barn. Probably the sweetest horse I've ever had around. And when I'm at competitions, we have to do boot checks and bonnet checks back at the barns because he'll plow people over. He's gotten better over the years, but it's not just a danger to him, but a danger to other horses because I can't get him to stand still long enough to do his boot checks and the show jumping. So I have the stewards come back to his stall at the competitions, and ones that don't know him think that I'm crazy because he's such a lamb. He's so quiet. And then you get out into the atmosphere and into the open, and a switch turns. He turns into, a different being. So people that see him in the barn are shocked. That don't know the horse are very shocked that it's the same horse that, they've seen in competition and is known to be quite a hot horse and a little bit of a quirky horse.
And how about turning him off at the end of cross-country day? Or are you able to just quieten him down and get him to switch off and relax?
We often have to leave the vet box. There has not been one time in my memory that he's come back and hasn't given somebody a bruise on their arm or a stepped on toe, or he gets, you cool him down in the vet box after like a long cross-country course, after a 4-star track. And then all of a sudden his heart rate starts going up again because he's looking at all the other horses and he's excited to think about possibly going cross-country again. So, once you get him back to the stable, it's the same thing with him in life. Once you get him back into the barn and into his box, then he calms down and then he's super. But when he is in that environment, out in the open, out in the excitement, he does not quiet down. I will say, sometimes as he's gotten older, he's been much quieter in the warm-up. To the point when I was at Maryland, I actually was walking around on the buckle thinking, wow, is he sick? Like he's being so well behaved. Because years ago, he's had to been chased to the start box, and once you get him there, he's on his job. He loves it, but he just has, he feels very insecure when he doesn't know exactly what his job is. And Kendall, who has been his longtime groom, always ends up standing at his on his left shoulder, because if he's going to spin anywhere when he's getting nervous and anxious and excited, he spins back to the left. So she's always there by his side on the left side going down into the arena or anytime we have any sort of difficulty.
And we'll be back in just a moment to hear more from Lynn right after this.
A world of triathlon from the Sports Dynamic Duo. Listen to the Siri and Beck Show on Wisp Sports Radio.
And if you're passionate about horses and rescuing them from slaughter, you'll be interested to know that Siri Lindley and Rebecca Keat, who host the Siri and Beck Show, also run an organization to rescue horses from slaughter. That's Believe Ranch and Rescue. And you can find out more about them by visiting the website at believeranchandrescue.org, where you can donate to the organization too and help them rescue more horses from slaughter. And I'm back now with Lynn Symansky to hear more about her partnership with Donner as they prepare for the World Equestrian Games. Let's go back to when you actually bought him as a 5-year-old, Lynn. I think just for the purposes of to tell the story of how the ownership came about, the Donner syndication, and how that all came about, because I'm sure there are listeners thinking, well, how do you get a horse to this level? How do you find a syndication? And you originally finding a horse that you believed in and convinced people that they should invest in him. It's a big job in itself doing that, isn't it? Talk a little bit about that partnership and how that came about.
Yeah, so I owned him for the, first part of his career. I got him he was just a nice type, and I didn't know if he was going to be a resale or something I'd hold on to for a little bit, but the price was right, and I liked the horse enough. I knew that his brain was going to be the biggest challenge right off the bat, but if that could be harnessed in the right way, he was really quite special. So I owned him up through, he had done some Kentuckys. I got to think back. Maybe it's been about 3 years now. He's been syndicated 3 full, maybe we're going on 4. I think I started doing it right after the WEG. So, we'd be coming up on almost 4 years. I got to a point where keeping horses at this level long term is financially impossible unless you are independently wealthy or have some great support behind you. And I just could not cover all the bills to maintain him at this level long term. So, the people had been doing some syndicates at this point. I know Sinead and Boyd had done a few syndicates, and so we did have a model to base that upon. So I got a few people involved. They were either clients or people I knew. Some had kind of been sent to me as a suggestion saying, hey, if you're interested in a top horse, this may be a way to be involved without being a full owner. So I got a group together. Some were clients from the barn, and one was someone I had never met actually before. And it's been an amazing group because it not only helped me keep Donner going, but it got all these people involved in a horse that they could not financially afford to support all on their own. And then it allowed us a possibility to get a second horse. The way I did this was I essentially donated him as a syndicate horse, and then the money that is used to, what you would say, buy the horse, then can purchase another horse. So it's a way actually to get 2 horses for a group of people and have the rider be able to afford to keep them going. So the second horse that we added was a horse called RF Cool Play, and he's just did his first CCI4 star this spring. So horse a little bit younger. So it's a way to get people involved in a horse at the top of its game, and then also one coming through the ropes. And I've loved having the syndicate because it gets lonely at the end of the day if you're paying all the bills and you come home and you're like, oh, great, I did well, but you don't really have anyone to share that with. So it's pretty cool getting to see how excited everybody gets when, he just keeps stepping up and ticking all the boxes. And you don't know when you go into it, it's scary because you don't know how much you're going to do with a horse in the end. And some of them break and some of them don't end up being what, you think they will be and what you promised. But it's great to have a group of people behind you that believe in the horse. And even when things don't go right, or even when you have little, you're sidelined for something, it's great to have the support of those people because they stand by you and then you come back out and do it again.
And they are your village.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no way you could do this without, a group of amazing supporters. And it's the syndicate, it's the people in the barn, the grooms, it's the working students, it's the vets and the farriers and the physio. Everybody is part of this horse's success. I am the lucky one that gets to ride him. But, there's no way that he would have come as far as he had without all of these parts that have really just helped keep him going and keep everything on track. And, I owe his success to all of them.
Well, we know you've got his fine-tuning down to a fine art now, Lynn, before a championship event. But now, what about your own fitness? What do you do to maintain a fitness for this level of competition?
Yeah, part of it is just being in the barn riding other horses. The more you get to sit on, the more you get to practice mentally and physically. And I do a bar class a few days a week, which is it's kind of like a combination of Pilates and yoga and some sort of ballet dancing. I'm not a graceful dancer, but it's no secret I have a lot of issues with my lower back. I've had them forever, and it's something I've constantly battled. And it's a way, it helps strengthen your core. It's a lot of core strength. And it helps stretch the muscles as well, which is really important as a rider, because if you just bulk up as a rider, you can get really tight and, sometimes be targeting some muscles and stuff that you don't want to go a certain way as a rider. So it's a fine balance. It almost is like fine-tuning Donner leading up to a championship. I have to find a balance of what the weaknesses in my lower back can take, and also working on my strength and my flexibility. Because, if I'm out of commission, doesn't matter how well prepared the horse is, I'm in a bit of trouble going into the championship. So I am trying to just work on my strength and flexibility as much as I can, and just be sitting on horses that are helping me get better. I think going into the championship, I'm a little more careful if I'm teaching somebody about, if I would normally just get on and feel what's going on. And if it's a bit of, if it's a horse that's really not worth sitting on, I don't mean worth it like the horse isn't worth it, but the risk of anything, there's a little more risk going into it. So I am a little more selective if I have a student come in and I just hop right on the horse if it's being a little bit naughty. That maybe I think about the closer we get to the competition, I'm, practicing just on the horses that I should be practicing on. But if you think about that too much and you're trying to save yourself, it's the same thing as if you try and save your horse too much. You're not prepared going into the championship. So it's a fine balancing act of practicing and getting stronger, and also just not doing anything silly.
What about cardio work? Do you feel the need for any of that, or do you get enough of that in the barn?
No, I feel like I do get enough of that in the barn. I have to say, I just freaking hate running. I really do. I've tried before. I just hate it. And I also, my back can't take it. Like, I cannot be standing for a long period of time. And this bar class, actually, it does do quite a bit of cardio. It gets your heart rate up, and it does get you breathing. So if I were to do cardio in an ideal world, I do something on an elliptical, something that takes a little bit of stress off my lower back. But you get a lot of cardio riding the horses, especially when you're competing in cross country as well. I've never gotten to a place where I felt like I was not fit enough crossing the finish line on a 4-star cross country course. So, I feel like it can always be better. But for what my body can take, I feel like it's more strength. And if I push the cardio too much, I'd maybe possibly risk injuring something else. So it's, just like knowing your horse, you got to know what the best balance is for your own body.
So you don't feel the need to get on a bike then?
I would, but you know what? There are only so many hours in a day. And it's such a hard balance. Like, I don't see my husband much. I really don't. I leave the house, he leaves early as well, but I'm back from the barn. It's rare that I would get home before 5. It's mostly around 8 something. And then you take a shower, make dinner, and go to bed. And there's no time to do all of that because I'm already devoting this time to, doing these fitness classes for myself. I'm working on all the horses. I'm having to run a business. And it's just not possible to be able to fit in biking for several hours unless you're willing to sacrifice, something else, which is right now income. I mean, it's a constant struggle for, I think, all industries, but eventers especially. It's an expensive sport, and it's not a sport we make a lot of money in compared to jumpers, and there's not as much money selling horses as well because the value is a little bit less than when you're selling jumpers or dressage horses. So you've got to be able to figure out a balance in your own business to make that money up. And yes, ideally, biking would be great, but there just aren't enough hours in the day to have your career and focus on your horses and getting to the WEG and be able to keep your business afloat and also have a personal life, a family life. So, that would be more my reason that I don't bike. I just don't have enough time to do anything extra.
Do you have to concern yourself with your nutrition at all when you're competing at the elite level, Lynn? Is it something you've been mindful of? I know, that as being a member of the team, you get help with all kinds of other things as an athlete to support you. Do you find that you've needed to make any changes to your diet to be mindful of what you eat to maximize your own performance? Has any of that come into play?
Well, definitely. I mean, I think we don't really have anyone consulting with us on that. There's a lot of more important things, I think, in our program that are trying to be sorted out. It would be a great addition for sure to have somebody consulting on that. Yes, and as you get older, you have to be more mindful of it because your metabolism slows down, and you can't eat what you did when you were, 10 years younger. So, going into the games, I am more mindful of what I'm eating and, thinking about my horse's back when I'm sitting the trot. And, you have Boyd who goes to the extreme sometimes in his diet, and I know he usually goes without alcohol for a period of time leading up, but I really do enjoy some wine at the end of the day. So that would be definitely my guilty pleasure. During the day, I'm really kind of on my feet all day, and I'll have a protein shake or something, but I'm not really eating much. I snack on some vegetables, and then at the end of the day is where my vice would be. Yes, I do have a bit of wine, but my way of cutting down on that would be, maybe a one glass instead of 2 or 3 glasses. And I do think, I'm not saying you need to drink, but sometimes it is a way to mentally unwind at the end of the day if you feel like you can go home and have a glass of wine. And that is, so for me, I definitely tighten up what I'm eating. And I also watch calories in consuming an alcoholic beverage because that's a very easy way to add, just empty pounds on there for no reason. Going into the competition season, you do have to be more mindful of it, but everybody's different mentally. And for me, I think I would drive myself crazy if I didn't have the ability to come back and have a glass of wine and take a breath, because that's kind of my ritual at the end of the day. So it's more just tidying up the healthy lifestyle.
Maybe it's Donner that needs a glass of wine at the end of the day, don't you think?
Maybe.
Help him chill out.
Exactly.
So going into this big competition, Lynn, I mean, as I say, you've been on the team a few times now. You know the drill. Does the anticipation of it, does that heighten your, in terms of anticipation, and I'm meaning nerves now, do you get more nervous or less because there's more pressure on you, or less nervous now? How do you cope with the mental, emotional side of the big competition? Yeah,
I just try and treat it like I'm preparing for any 3-day, in your spring or fall season. I've had some experience on a few teams now, so I know what to expect. So I'm not nervous in that sense. I think if I were to say I'm nervous about anything, it would just be waking up in the morning knowing that your horse is still in one piece and nothing goes wrong, because with horses, there's always some surprise waiting around the corner. So nothing's a given. No, I don't feel less nervous, like, oh, I've made the team, everything's fine. Yeah, it is nerve-wracking, but I wouldn't say it's nerves. I think I feel like I have a pretty good sense of my own mental game, and I just treat each competition like it's what I've been preparing for, because it's gotten me to this point, and you keep putting one foot in front of the other and, deal with any setbacks or any surprises as they come.
Well, as you mentioned, you've got a few nice horses now. You've got a few at FEI level. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at potentially you riding Donner at another World Equestrian Games, what do you most look forward to when you know you're going to pull him out of the barn and get on him?
Well, I would say going into the WEG, I'm really looking forward to doing it better than I did last time and having a better experience this time than we did in Normandy. I'm, 4 years wiser. The horse is 4 years better trained. And, yeah, I think that he has a chance to, be quite good there. And it definitely is a strong horse for the team. He is a team type of horse because he's not the flashiest on the flat. We know he's not going to win the dressage, but he's always one that's stepped up. And so it makes me confident going in that I know I have a horse that I know well and I can rely on. And every day I just am enjoying every day I get to ride him, because he feels amazing for how much he's done in his career. I would like to think that he's not close to the end of his career. I know he's, I think he's just starting to peak, really. He feels trained. He feels so good in his body. And then they're 15, and then you're like, oh man, where are you? When we were 11 or 12, you'd have so many years to enjoy. So I guess you just enjoy every day a bit more and don't take it for granted that you have 7 more years to look forward to. And so he's a pretty special horse, and he's taken both of us farther than I could have ever imagined when I first bought him. So I think it's just really, with the horses, you've got to live a little bit day by day and enjoy that process and not get so caught up in obsessing over, how you're going to get to the WEG. Because if you start thinking more about that and less about what you've done every day that's gotten you to this point, then you lose sight of your foundation that's gotten you here. So I think I just enjoy sitting on them every day. It's like my most comfortable pair of shoes.
Old partners, old friends.
Yep.
It's been great to catch up with you, Lynn, and we will, of course, see you at WEG. And at that point, I think, before you go into your dressage, it would be a good point to ask you what your expectations would be for your test, to get under 30, obviously. But we'll talk about it a little bit closer to the moment. But for now, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come on the program. And the best of the luck with you, obviously, with the rest of the preparation. And we will see you in Tryon.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
And I'll be talking to more riders during their preparation for the World Equestrian Games. And as I said earlier, we will be at Tryon for the Games from September the 11th through the 23rd to bring you daily coverage on the podcast here and also on Facebook Live. So you can join in the conversations by hopping over to our Facebook page. Just look for Wisp Sports. And we're on other social media channels too, so be sure to follow us at Wisp Sports, and you can post your comments, questions or suggestions on our Facebook page or drop us a line to info@wispsports.com. We love to hear from you. My thanks again to our sponsors, Highlands Earache Drops, and you can find them at highlands.com/ear-pain. And if you're interested in other sports, you'll find lots of conversations from the world of women's sports on our website at wispsports.com. And starting August the 8th, you can join us weekly on the new Engage program in partnership with Galvanize. We'll be bringing you weekly live video shows where you can join in the conversation on video and be part of the show. That will be at getvocal.com, and we'll have links on our Facebook page too. That's every week on Wednesdays, starting on August the 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back next week right here on The Horse Show. Until then, thank you for listening and supporting women in sport everywhere.